Welcome, everybody. It's my pleasure to introduce Jeniah Jones from Florida State College, Jacksonville. I'll give you the brief introduction and I'll turn it over to her. So Jeniah Jones, Master's of Education, has served Northeast Florida community as a professor of adult education, mathematics, and first-year experience at Florida State College at Jacksonville since 2013. She has concurrently served as the Assistant Director of Faculty Development at FSCJ Academy, Teaching and Learning since 2018. Jeniah was a Union Vice President for UFF, FSCJ, and she's an active member of the American Psychological Association and the Society of Psychology Teachers. She is also the President-elect and Florida representative for the Adult Numeracy Network, ANN, and is a member of the Association of the Florida Colleges, WACE, and faculty commissions. She's passionate about communities, relationships, social justice, and helping others feel like they belong. Sounds awesome. Her commitment and dedication to her personal and professional endeavors can be attributed to her early years as a formal military dependent. And in brackets, she writes, not a Navy brat, but a formal military dependent. Jeniah, it's my pleasure again to see you, and I look forward to anything you want to share about your experiences of teaching mathematics. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Fred. And it's always a pleasure to see you. I look forward to our time together. So I do want to ask all of you, oh, my question is wrong. I do want to ask all of you before we begin, this is what happens when you don't practice your polls, when you practice your presentation. So I want to ask how all of you are doing today. That's one of the things that I always do when I start with my students is I usually start with a wellness check to see if anybody has anything they want to send me in the private chat. But today we're going to be talking about collaborative learning with Jigsaw and mind mapping. So let's jump right in. So we're going to talk about how to use Jigsaw and mind mapping strategies, practice implementing the technique. So you're going to have to do a little bit of work today. I'm so sorry. Actually, that's a lie. I'm not sorry at all. That's why I planned it that way. And then we're going to talk about what some of these benefits are for instructors and how they can really make things a little bit more interactive, more engaging for you and your students. So in the chat, take just a moment to put in what are some of the collaborative learning techniques that you are currently using in your classes. So if there are opportunities you allow your students to work together, share what those are. And if you don't have any, that's fine. You will walk away with a few ideas today. So excellent. Continue to share those together in the chat and looking at what other people have written as well. Today we're going to be talking about specifically Jigsaw and mind mapping. So Jigsaw is a cooperative learning strategy that promotes peer teaching. I had an opportunity earlier this year to do a Six Sigma yellow belt certification class with a colleague of mine. And we decided early on that we were going to use peer teaching throughout this entire course. And it turned out to be a phenomenal success because we had all professionals from CSX in this class, the safety team from CSX. And we didn't want to come into the environment as, hey, we know everything and you don't know anything. But we had content that we were teaching them for the Six Sigma Yellow Belt certification. And we wanted them to dive into the learning materials and be able to teach that content to their colleagues because they are all instructors. They teach the safety stuff at CSX. Another tool that we're going to talk about today is mind mapping. And this is just a visual tool for organizing and connecting ideas. And this is a really great tool, something that's beneficial for students with dyslexia, students in general, though, gives them an opportunity to see how ideas relate to each other. As someone who teaches math, it's a little bit obvious, in my area of discipline, how things connect to each other. Sometimes, not always. But for some other areas in which we teach, it's oftentimes not as obvious because it doesn't scaffold quite the same way. So sometimes making that explicit for students is beneficial. So the way the Jigsaw works is this, and we're going to do this in a minute, so listen closely. So you have two groups essentially that you're going to end up putting your students into. So you're going to take your content and divide it into sections. In my online classes, my live online classes, I typically listen to all of the groups at the same time to hear what they're discussing. So I limit this usually to 3 or 4 groups. And sometimes that makes you have a larger group and you might have to give them a little bit of time. But I've just found recently that I'm losing the ability to run, 6 groups or, so I can't hear 6 voices at once. So, but I mean, this is up to you. You can only join audio if you don't want to actually go into all of the rooms the way that I do. And that's fine. So you want to make sure that the groups are a little bit diverse, but one of the things that is really cool is if you do have a little bit of hegemony in those groups, then you can use AI. I use a tool called Brisk AI that I recently found. It's a free tool to use with limited access to features. But you can take any passage from any website or any video and level it is what I call it. In adult education, our students test on the way in with the CASAS 2 test, and we find out their reading level. Like that's information that they come to us with. So even though someone may be in my math class for GED math, they may still be in a basic education language class because they need to develop reading skills. So what you can do is you can take that text with Brisk and then level it to a different, grade level so that everybody in that group will be able to read and comprehend the content that you have. It's not changing the content, it's just changing the reading level. And there are other AI tools that allow you to do that as well. The Jigsaw is the most probably by far useful way of having that, because for me at least, having materials that students can read at their level and having the opportunity for them to read, learn, and then communicate out to their classmates what they've learned is so beneficial for the students. After the students have read the content that you've given them, they can ask each other questions, and then I usually give them a little bit of time to talk about how they're going to present that material to their classmates. Once that's done, you're going to break them up into groups where everybody in the group has different information. And this is going to be what I call their study groups. So they go from an expert group to a study group. In that study group, they will then teach, each person will go around and teach everyone else what they learned. If you happen to have 2 people from the study group, then they can kind of collaborate to teach that material. And sometimes you have to do that because you're going to have some folks who are a little shy. And then when you're done, you can return them to their original groups to share that knowledge. Now, one thing that I like to stack on top of this technique is not just to have them teach each other what they learned, but to have them create a mind map or have them create some visualization of what they learned from the other groups. So in a mind map, you will have a central idea at the core, and then main themes come out of that as bold branches. And you write 1 or 2 words above each branch. You don't want to put like full sentences. It's not the point. So you want to just kind of condense to, what those main ideas are. And then you can also have smaller branches with, subtopics coming from those main branches. So you also want to make sure that you write in all caps, not cursive. One thing that you'll notice is that we have several students now who do not know how to read cursive. So it also helps if you're using tools like we're going to be using the whiteboard tool, but there are many mind map tools out there that you can use. I have also used Google Slides, or before it was discontinued, I used Jamboard because I would also combine these techniques with a gallery walk. but we'll talk about gallery walk in just a moment. And then the other thing is you want to make sure that you use colors, images, keywords. So sometimes you might want to throw in an image instead of writing just with words. And then you want to find the connections between those key ideas. And then you want to make those connections and see how the information is related across the branches. So some things to keep in mind when you're doing this in your class is that you want to make sure that you are giving the students everything that they need to know about the tools they're going to be using. In this particular example that you are going to do for me now, you are going to be using the whiteboard feature, the multi-user whiteboard in BigBlueButton. And some of the key features that you can use are that it has shapes, colors, and you can change the font size so that you can continue on with this mind map that you are going to be creating with your group. Is there anybody who has never used the multi-user whiteboard in BigBlueButton? Okay, so my lovely colleague who is a WebEx person. Oh, we don't want to say that word. We will talk about how to use that. Okay. One of the things that I will say is that once that feature is available to you in the breakout room, it's very intuitive. If you want to write, you're going to click the icon of a pen. If you want to erase, you're going to click the icon of the big pink, eraser we all had in elementary school. If you want to type, you're going to click the icon of a T for text. So it's very intuitive. And when you get in there, I'm sure that the people in your group will be able to help you along. So just a few more things that I want to mention before we go into our breakout rooms. So these are the steps that we're going to follow. So you may want to make note of this. You're going to enter into 4 expert groups. And each of the expert groups are going to have a collaborative learning topic. So you will have 5 minutes to read and discuss your topic. That's probably way more time than you need. In group 1, they will talk about the think, pair, share method. Group 2 is going to discuss 4 corners. Group 3, round robin. And group 4, gallery walk, which I mentioned just a moment ago. Your group number will be at the top of your breakout room window. After you have read and reviewed all the information, you're going to prepare with your expert group to share that information with others. Because after that, I'm going to take you out of that group and move you to what I call the home group, but we called it the teaching group in the diagram earlier. And so you're going to begin with the shared whiteboard document on the next slide. And then you're going to create a mind map based on the ideas from the Jigsaw activity. And you will have 10 minutes to do so. Then, actually, we're probably going to make it 8 because I talked longer than I thought I would. Then we're going to, use those main branches for the group's topics. I've done that for you. And then you're going to include key points as sub-branches. And you make sure that you look for connections between them. So if you need any help, you can raise your hand. You can call my name, or you can use the chat function. One thing that I always recommend for folks is when they come in, making sure that you are checking between those groups to see if anybody is asking questions. So we're going to take just a minute now. I'm going to send you into breakout rooms with those 4 topics. Actually, before I do that, I need to give you the links so that you can have the 4 topics. And again, the links are going to be next to the room numbers. I don't know if it's better, Audrey. That's a very fine line of psychosis between always with you and always watching you. And I don't really know where that line is. So I love my coworkers. So we are going to take about 5 minutes to read. Again, you want to make sure that you are including everybody in the group in your discussion. It just occurred to me that I am now sending our interpreters into groups. So I don't know if that's a good idea, but you want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity. So whoever has whiteboard access, one thing that you may want to consider is sharing your screen, and then maybe have somebody read aloud. And then you want to then go over all of the information together, make sure that you are positive on what you all want to share with the other groups. And then we'll come back here for just a second while I redistribute the groups. I will see you all in just a moment. Do, do, do. We had some hitches, some hiccups, and that's okay. So again, one of the things that we would do at this point, and because of time, I am going to skip the next part. But one of the things that we would do at this point is to send everybody into a reimagined, redistributed room and give them this graphic so that they could say, hey, who was in the group that learned about think, pair, share? And then that group would then come and put in the words that would go on the sub branches here. Then you would say, okay, which group learned about gallery walk? And then you could put that information on these sub branches. And then when you're done, again, like I said before, you would come through and make connections with the areas that were, the ideas that had connections. So it takes a little bit of discussion. It takes a little bit of time. I typically have, 75 to 90 minutes for my classes. And so, we have enough time for folks to have discussions and to be able to really dive into the content. So why do these active learning strategies matter? And I think that Fred said it best in the opening session earlier today, is that we want to make sure that our students are engaged, because that is how they learn. That engagement, that not having a back row for students to hide in a virtual classroom is really where the magic happens in Big Blue Button. So we want to make sure that our strategies are allowing students this opportunity. Now we have some benefits of the Jigsaw method here. Again, that engagement is central. We want to make students feel independence, a sense of autonomy in their learning. We want to respect, particularly for those of us who teach adults, we want to respect the experience and the knowledge that our students come to us with. And we want to make sure that we're giving them an opportunity to make connections and teach each other based off of their own backgrounds and experiences. Again, same thing with our mind maps. We want to make connections here as well. This time we're making connections with the content, not necessarily connections with contextualizing the learning. We want to give students an opportunity to think about things as individual. I usually, there's been times as well when I'll give them an opportunity to integrate that think, pair, share before they present those mind maps to everyone else, or before they do their gallery walk, and just give them an opportunity to think on their own. I recently started rubber duck debugging, so giving them an opportunity to have that time for metacognition, and then letting them go through all the other presentations in the gallery walk and making comments on the slides. Why do we want to integrate these? I've integrated, many of these strategies because we want to use the tools that we have. First of all, we are paying for Big Blue Button. I'm sure many of us are. I just heard in the last session, apparently, there's like $1 fee for some of them. But anyway, we want to make sure that we're using the tools that we have, because that is a good use of the money that we're given. I work at a state school, right? Tax-paying dollars are paying for these tools, and we want to be good stewards of that money. We want to make sure that we're also incorporating some digital tools for our students so that we give them opportunities for remote collaboration. Also, combining methods is a really great way to summarize the Jigsaw learning with the mind mapping. And then also because, again, we want students to have something they can study, something that they can contribute to and create based off of what they've learned in their classes. So you want to make sure that you are explaining to students what you want them to do clearly, giving them time that, like I did not do for you today. I usually have 2 hours for my workshops. It's not my fault. And then also you want to make sure that you're giving them guidance throughout, like I said, asking questions, giving them the opportunity to call on you for help or assistance. Make sure that you are aligning your activities with your collaboration goals for your students. And then also you want to think in advance of potential challenges, like I did not do with the interpreters in our room today. So in the chat before you go, I would like for you to take a minute to reflect on what we talked about today. And I want you to note one way that you will implement Jigsaw, mind mapping, or any of the other active learning strategies that we talked about, and then share that in the chat before you go. And I was told by Fred that I am allowed to hold hostage anyone who doesn't put their strategy in the chat before they go. No, that's not true. He didn't tell me that. And that's all I have. So thank you. And I've gone over. So apparently we won't have questions and answers.
Jeniah, thanks. In fact, you're the last session of the day. So you have the freedom to, like, if folks want to interact for a little bit more.
So we do have 2 hours. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, we have all the time we need. That's
so
cool.
To respond to your comment, Audrey, before she retired, Betsy Stout-Morrell did a workshop on not just mind maps, but like a whole bunch of different techniques for integrating. Of course, this is all stuck together because it's on sticky paper, but okay, here we go. So different types of thinking maps. Oh, and you can't see any of that because I blurred my background. And so we did a thinking map. On the thinking maps we learned about, because of course, that's how we learn as teachers, right? Ignore the fact that my office is crazy messy, but we did this. And so ever since then, I've been like, okay, I have to give students an option, because they're not going to take good notes on their own. So I like to throw in opportunities for them to incorporate those different strategies at the end of class. So to kind of recap. Thank you for being here, Audrey. I appreciate the support. By the way, Audrey, Audrey Ante is the director of our Academy for Teaching and Learning. I'm just the number 2. This is the main number 1 person right here. She's the queen of our Faculty Academy. Any other questions or comments? Yes, and the input from students, I'm telling you, Jerry, it's been just, it really helps because students have different experiences than we do, obviously. And so seeing the way that they tie things together is just really interesting. I learn a lot. I think I saw a hand from someone named Claudia. Did I see Claudia? I just saw it flash 1 second, and I don't know if I read it right. Is there a Claudia? Yes, Claudia. Did you have a question? I think I unlocked you to be able to speak.
I think you just might have clicked the wrong button. Instead of the emoji button, probably the raise hand. It's right next to it.
Okay.
Okay, I think we've all got at least once.
Oh, okay. I see the chat now. Sorry. All right. if there are no more questions or comments, thank you all so very much for being here. Again, I'm Jeniah Jones from FSCJ. If you would like to contact me afterward, that's my email. It's jeniah.jones@fscj.edu. I don't check emails very well or anything with the word mail in it. I wish my phone would stop telling me I have 3 voicemails. I don't care. But anyway, I look forward to hearing from you because eventually I will check my emails.
Thank you, Jeniah, on behalf of the Big Blue Button Project for sharing your experience, how you use it to do like collaboration among students. And this was really great. I loved the fact that you were using it to get us involved. Thanks again.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, Fred. Thanks for everything. And I love this new user interface. It's so space agey.